Hello there, and welcome. Well, today I want to talk about something that was never, ever discussed in any of my training as a teacher, and yet affected my life quite a bit. And it's building gossip. So, gossip is a thorny issue. We all know that. And it's going to come up. You're going to be discussed by other people. That has to happen. For those of you who don't like the idea of being discussed by others, I'm sorry to inform you that this is going to happen no matter what. So I want to give you an idea of what you can expect and what can cause excessive or damaging gossip, and ways to protect yourself from doing things that might be a little bit on the unethical side. And I want to start by saying I am not an innocent where this is concerned. I am very tempted by gossip. I like talking about people. I'm fascinated by people. Even the ones I dislike intensely are very interesting to me. So, some first things about gossip. If you're a young teacher, you're going to get gossiped about. If you're a single teacher, you're going to get gossiped about. Any kind of incident gets discussed. Gossip starts about teachers when students hit their double digits. Typically, students do not gossip about teachers, they gossip about each other and themselves until they're in the 10 or above range. And once that hits, it stays that way for the rest of your life. People gossip until you die. So, the question is, first of all, is there such a thing as good gossip? Second of all, can you steel yourself against gossip? Third, how do you respond to gossip? Some of these I have advice for, some of them I don't. The first thing I want to say is it's okay to gossip about a fellow professional, whether a teacher, administrator, staff member, as long as what you say in a room with kids is complimentary. You can discuss your fellow professionals as long as you're being complimentary. If you compliment or uplift your fellow professionals, that's first of all a good thing, and second of all, not very interesting to young people. If you say you love this teacher because you've just always considered them really entertaining and fun, the students won't necessarily carry that tale back to the teacher. They might, but they very well may not, because your complimentary comment is not as interesting to them as something salacious might be. If you can't compliment someone, if the kids bring up a teacher in class and you can't say anything complimentary about that teacher, don't discuss that teacher. You have the perfect way to avoid that. You say, let's get back on the subject that I'm actually teaching rather than some teacher. The kids will try to gossip with you in class. Resist. I have been tempted by this. I've fallen victim of this. Sometimes I've done things that are really dumb in front of kids and paid the price for it. So I'm going to give you an example of a bit of gossip I did in front of the kids and I paid for it. I was wanting to use a piece of equipment that had been bought by the building for all the teachers, and I couldn't find a time that I could get access to this piece of equipment. And I was very frustrated by this, and so I said, very unwisely in front of my students, the science department thinks that piece of equipment belongs to them, and they just have taken total advantage of it so that none of the rest of us can use it. You know how long it took after the bell rang for the head of the science department to come into my room hot under the collar? Less than a passing period. The kids must have run, flat out run out of the room to go tell him about this. And by the way, this was before social media, so it would have been even faster with the way the phones are handed around and the way kids text. They text without looking at their phones now, so if you say something about some other teacher, it's going to get back to them, and it's probably not going to be great if you're not complimentary, okay? He had every right to be mad at me for being that petty. He did. Now, admittedly, I got access to the piece of equipment, but that wasn't as important as the fact that I'd made him angry and set up this kind of tension between us. It was not a good thing. So don't do it if you can avoid it. I've also been gossiped about by other teachers. And I'm going to give you just a couple of examples. One year I was head prom sponsor. Now, there is nothing I dislike more with a whiter hot passion than prom. I think it's stupid. And I think many parts of it are absolutely useless and morally vacant. But when I was chosen to be head sponsor of the juniors, which means head sponsor of the prom committee, I decided I would enable the kids to do what they wanted in the best way possible. And of course, they decided to go with the theme, A Night on the River Walk. That's right, A Night on the River Walk. It was amazing. We made little bridges, we made a false river, we made an Alamo on the stage. It was crazy. But I heard this rumor that I was being paid extra to be prom sponsor, which was a lie. And so I asked the kids who were telling me this, who told you that? And they told me. And guess what I did? I marched down to that teacher's room and I asked, are you telling people that I'm getting a stipend or an increment for being head prom sponsor? And she said yes. And I said, well, I'm not, and I would appreciate it if you would stop carrying that tale. Okay. So, you know, we weren't friends anymore. I had discussions with people in the teacher's lounge, which I had a discussion with a guy in the teacher's lounge, and he went back and told his students how dumb I was by what I said. And you know how long it took them to get to my room from his room? No time. Once that bell rang, man, they were at my room and they were telling me, he's shit-talking you. They didn't say that exactly, but pretty close. So yeah. What's really interesting about that is, even after I left that school, one of his buddies, his closest buddy, was still talking mean about me after I left the school. I was at another school, and you know what? That gossip still got back to me. I still found out about it. So, okay, gossip gets around. You got to be careful of it. So, if you're young, avoid having social events at your home with students involved or even their parents. It's better if you attend social events. If there are going to be parents or students there, it's better that you attend them somewhere other than your home. It's a great temptation, and some teachers have to do it because they're club sponsors and things like that. I understand that. Make sure there's some people always there, and never, ever get drunk in front of students or their parents. There's an old saying called a 200-mile Southern Baptist. That means that Southern Baptist doesn't take a drink of alcohol until they're 200 miles from their home church. When you're a teacher, you need to be a 200-mile Southern Baptist. You need to avoid doing anything gossip-worthy anywhere near where you work. Because quite frankly, it can hurt you. It can be very difficult for you. And I won't go into all the ways it can make your life difficult because I've known a lot of them. Luckily, I'm the squarest person in the world, so I've only had to endure a few. But you can be kind and sweet and pleasant to people, and you can even say something in a jesting manner, a kidding manner, or in just a friendly manner, and it can be taken the wrong way, and people will gossip about that. So you have to be prepared that there's going to be gossip about you, okay? It's going to happen. If you want to avoid all forms of gossip, be boring and bad at your job. You'll still get gossiped about, but very little. If you're good at your job, if you're smart, if you're interesting, people are going to discuss you. What you want to do is avoid being worthy of really damaging gossip if you can. You can't always manage to avoid damaging gossip. Some people are going to carry tales and they're going to be hurtful and they're just going to do it because they don't like you and they won't have any other reason than that. So you just have to brace yourself for it. It could happen to you. The best way to respond is to be yourself, be genuine, and be kind no matter what, if you can. Try always to be kind. Finally, try your best to not let gossip hurt you. Now that's difficult because sometimes things get said about a person that are really painful. And there's nothing you can do about that. If it hurts you, it hurts you. Try to, as much as you possibly can, forget it. Just try to let it go. Sometimes you can't, sometimes it's really hard to do so, but it is possible. I can tell you that right now. It's possible to let go of that. It's not easy, but it's possible. Finally, when you discuss things with students, if you're worried that a student has something that they legitimately need to tell you and it's concerning, like a teacher doing something that's not okay, having a relationship with a student, having the wrong kind of physical contact with a student, allow students to come and visit with you one-on-one. Now that means you need to always be visible to passersby. You cannot shut yourself up in a small office with no window. That will cause gossip. If you're going to shut an office door, make sure the office door's window is visible. You can see through it and you can see what's going on in there. Students do place trust in many teachers. Sometimes it's well placed and sometimes it's not. If a student needs to report something awful to you, if they start to say it in class, say, I want you to stay when the bell rings, or I want you to come in at X time and talk to me. But don't let anything real, that's a real problem, become part of the public discussion, because that will only muddy up everything. When a student needs to tell you something, needs to report something to you, encourage them to do it one-on-one and tell them up front that you may have to involve administrators or counselors in this. That is the best way to do it. You cannot discuss something serious in front of the classroom because there's going to be 25 different versions of the discussion and it's going to cause the worst kind of gossip you can imagine. Okay? That's it for today. I hope you have a glorious rest of the day, and I hope whatever is said about you is wonderful and complimentary, even if it isn't true. I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.